Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to start momentarily. Appreciate your time today. Perfect. Jeff, you ready to get going?
Sure, let's do this.
Okay, great. Thank you again, everyone. Appreciate your time today joining us. I'm Mark Heimson. I lead sales for Kurmi in the US, and I'm joined by Jeff Dillon. Jeff is one of our technical account managers. Um, Both of us have spent a lot of time in the UC space and the collaboration space. Jeff's background, I think, is especially unique and well suited for this event. Jeff was 7 years at Wells Fargo. He was a technical manager for UC Engineering and Ops. So, Jeff, glad you'll be taking the hard questions and you'll be covering
Sure.
some of the meaty subjects today. So, appreciate that. So today's event, Modern Unified Communications Management for Financial Services Organizations. We'll talk a little bit about why we pick financial services. Kurmi as a platform supports a number of different market segments in the enterprise, but financial services is unique and we're seeing unique things out of that market. We'll talk about that and why we think the Kurmi platform is really well suited for that market segment. So with that, one more housekeeping issue for Q&A, submit questions. We will address as many as we can at the conclusion of this. Anything we don't get to, we will address afterward. So please fire away as many questions as you can. We will get to everything we can on this session. So thank you again. Quickly, just from an agenda standpoint, we'll talk a little bit about Kurmi. Some of you know Kurmi and are familiar. I think others are not. So we'll thread the needle and talk a little bit about Kurmi, what we do fundamentally, how we're supporting financial services, what those unique challenges we're seeing in the market, what we're hearing from customers. We'll talk a lot about our single pane of glass, what that means, what the value of it is, and how it's being utilized by organizations. And then for me, I think the most interesting part will be the case studies and demos, which Jeff will be walking through and taking us through. They're going to be specific to financial service organizations. And again, I think they'll hit on the use cases we see most commonly. And then we'll cover as much Q&A at the conclusion as we can. So that's what we'll do today. We're going to move through this pretty quickly. Our goal is 30 to 40 minutes for everything. So let's get rolling. So a little bit on Kurmi. I'm not going to touch on all these points. I'll hit what I think is most important here. We've been in business for 14 years. We have been automating workflows around unified communications and contact center. We've been expanding our sphere of influence. So as you know, I think day one, we were a Cisco only platform that supported Cisco. We have expanded greatly since then. We'll certainly talk about exactly what that coverage now looks like. The other point I think is really important is we're not built for every type of organization. The Kurmi platform is really ideally suited for the enterprise, also managed service providers who are supporting large corporations, but really the enterprise and large government organizations where there's a great deal of complexity. Oftentimes there's more than one UC or contact center platform that's in use. And there's a great deal of need for things like delegation, auditing, security, and you can see why these things really feed into the financial services industry. But we are not built for mid-market or SMB. This is really an enterprise play. And we like to say it's anywhere from 2,500 users on up. Our largest customers are well into the hundreds of thousands of users, but we see everything in between, of course. So with that, we will keep. Yeah, Jeff, go
Actually,
ahead.
Mark, just to add real quickly, so you
Yeah.
kind of think about it then, Kurmi really does become kind of the center of the UC ecosystem then, that we really do kind of control everything, not just your voice systems, but also your SBCs, like Mark mentioned, your contact centers, E911. We kind of control all of it, and you can do it all from one single platform instead. So that's what really, when we say complex systems, that's what we're meaning complex systems. It's no longer just having one thing to actually keep after. Now it's a whole multitude of them. We actually keep it very, very simple.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Jeff. Good
Sure.
point. Okay, so we picked the financial services industry to cover in this webinar. To be fair, we support different industries as well, but there's no question that this, along with healthcare, are our two largest industries we're supporting. You can see the number of employees. This does not even count the number of users supported through our managed service providers. That would add a very large number to this as well. But we are expanding and growing very quickly in financial services. Again, we'll talk about what we're seeing in market, what we're hearing from our customers, what use cases we're solving for, and the complexity we are looking to simplify and automate against. So, Jeff, I'm talking quickly, but jump in if there's anything else you want to
Sure.
add.
Well, the reason why we actually are so trusted in the financial services is because we absolutely value security. We make sure that there's complete data sovereignty for our customers, and making sure that that everything we do is handled in the most with security as being our top priority for our customers and our users.
Perfect. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about sort of what are these unique challenges. We talked about, financial services is unique in some ways. I'd say not in every way. I mean, there's definitely some overlap in what we see in other industries, but there are things that are very, very unique. So I think at a greater level, we are seeing financial service organizations embrace sort of a multi-vendor approach. Not always, of course, but it's not unusual. I think the financial services industry historically has been more acquisitive than other industries, where organizations are buying organizations that are letting them operate either as standalone um, companies, or they're being absorbed by the larger company. But in any case, there are oftentimes multiple UC environments, certainly multiple contact center environments, and large, complex sort of UC sprawling domains that we see. So not unusual. These organizations are oftentimes global. Sometimes they're just US based, but oftentimes global. The next point is around onboarding and offboarding. So organizations we see are oftentimes bringing in a large number of employees over a very short period of time. The opposite is true. The offboarding can happen as well. And they are looking to be really organized and efficient in how they do both. So from an onboarding standpoint, they're looking to automate that process, shorten that process as much as possible, and make sure when an employee is ready to go and they're onboarded in other respects, they're not waiting on unified communications, profiles, phone numbers, voicemails, call queues, whatever it is that they need. So, Jeff, I see you nodding, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah, it's the worst. To usually get a user on board just with normal systems, it usually takes 15 minutes at least. But now with the complexity of all the other systems I mentioned minutes ago, it's gotten worse. We can actually make it go down to just a zero-touch system instead, to where ticket gets opened, everything gets created, tickets gets closed. So it's going to save time. It's going to decrease errors. It's going to make things actually just much easier just for onboarding and offboarding users as well.
perfect. And Jeff, I know you've lived the requirements around security, so I'll let you tackle that one, and I'll add if I need to.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that's really is very important to Kurmi is our security standards I mentioned. We offer two different, either self-hosted. If you absolutely that you need to have absolute data sovereignty, we can absolutely do a self-hosted version. Or if you're more comfortable with actually putting this in Kurmi's cloud, Kurmi is ISO 27001 compliant. We operate internationally, so we are GDPR compliant. All of our data is encrypted and transported TLS 1.2, and everything is encrypted at rest at AES 256. So absolutely, we make sure that we are making sure that we're meeting the most stringent security standards.
Perfect. And Jeff, the only thing I'll add is, and we didn't touch on it yet, and we'll get to it for sure, is Kurmi is offered and available as a full, on-premise or self-hosted. And both options are equally full-featured. One is not deprecated relative to the other. So for financial service organizations, they'll have the choice of either. And in either case, they are equally, I would call, secured, but it's a matter of preference and sort of where organizations are in that. and that process of moving things to the cloud or not over time. So, but both options are available. Perfect. So Jeff had touched on this, I think, early on, but just we are a centralized IT and UC admin platform. So able to manage your entire kind of UC domain and contact center domain all within Kurmi. And we'll talk about sort of what is the scope of that domain, but I'll give you an example of how quickly we are developing integrations across the UC domain. In the last 90 days, we have released full integrations to Genesys, Webex calling, audio codes, and Red Sky. All of that in the last 90 days. So we already had deep integrations across the UC and contact center environment, and we are quickly adding to it. So we'll be clear about what we cover, but we are looking to support really your entire kind of UC contact center domain, including those additional platforms that are connected to it and supporting other functions.
And so with this also really kind of makes sense. You might have some soft phone users that might be on Zoom or Teams. You might have desk phones that are still connected to Cisco. Absolutely, but you're managing them all kind of in one profile, all on one screen, all on one platform, as opposed to logging out, logging back in, logging out, logging back in. Did I change it here? Did I change it there? So it really is kind of everything all across one platform.
Yeah, and Jeff, good point. And I'll just say one other thing, which is as it relates to LDAP or your database, helping to keep that clean and that accurate and up to date. The Kurmi platform is going to be checking that information, conveying that information bidirectionally. So it's a really effective way to make sure that your database is accurate. It's not extended with a lot of information that is no longer accurate or useful.
Yep, that absolutely helps. Yeah, when you just need to make sure you have an actual phone number is right for your user. We keep everything nice and clean and updated as well.
So this slide is, I'll move through this quickly, but this is really sort of some key value propositions around, again, financial services, overcoming sprawl. I think we talked a little bit about that just now. Overall, probably the number one value point for our customers is they're looking to become much more efficient, automate their processes, reduce errors. Overall that efficiency. And Jeff talked about creating a zero-touch environment. We can do that. Oftentimes, it's in conjunction with something like ServiceNow, or we can create a super low-touch environment if something like ServiceNow doesn't exist. But either way, we're talking about a much more efficient, delivering faster SLAs to the organization and serving employees and getting them offline much more quickly. Enhanced security, Jeff, I don't know if there's anything to add there. So I know
well, there's an interesting way to look at this. So you don't necessarily, as the engineering team, should not be necessarily doling out admin rights to absolutely everybody, whether that be at your help desk or your NOC. You want to make sure that you are also giving out only the access that would actually still be able to help get the job done. Kurmi has role-based access control where we can actually make sure that you're only seeing the locations, the departments, the users. You would actually need to be able to have those as well. So when we say enhanced security, it means just that it is different levels of it, that we can make sure that you can also, you're making sure that the behind the scenes systems are also being able to be being managed as well.
Perfect. And then the last point just on this slide is, this is we think of it as a future-proof platform. So not only are we supporting the systems in place today, but as they shift and change over time, we want to make sure that we support those new platforms and what you're adopting going forward or what you're migrating to. We very much look at this as a future-proof platform to support your evolving needs.
Yeah, and with that as well, I mean, it might be that you might be migrating from a legacy on-prem system to a cloud-hosted service instead. All the changes that have to come along with that, changing the format of the phone numbers, we're going to have absolutely help you with that. We're going to help you from changing them to 164s. We're going to have absolutely, if you have to update firmware on your devices, we're going to absolutely help you with that. But we do all this today, but it's cross-platform, cross-vendor migrations as well.
Great. So this is a little bit of a different visual. We talked about some of these vendors you're seeing on the right here. This is a subset of what we cover, but it's a good representative sample, what we're supporting today. And then on the left, really the most common use cases we're seeing from financial service organizations. Probably none of it is a surprise. The last point Jeff talked to was UC migrations. We're involved in a lot of those where it's either from a planning standpoint and or operationally making that happen and much more efficiently as people move to the cloud. So we are looking again to just be at the center of this, help automate these processes and create workflows that are, much more efficient than they otherwise would be. Okay, so Jeff, this is I think this is a good slide for you, and segues
Sure.
into some of the case studies and videos you're going to be walking through.
Sure, and Kurmi does a lot. So there are a lot of things we can actually do. We're really only going to focus on a couple of things. And it really is, really like we've kind of mentioned, how do we actually want to build user profiles? How do we do zero touch provisioning, specifically with ServiceNow? And then also I kind of mentioned as well with role-based access control and how we want to actually go through and kind of set those up. But we do a lot of other things as well. There's just not enough time to kind of actually go through with them as well. But again, as you can see, we also highlight security and compliance on here. But we'll go ahead and start off with user profile templates instead and kind of actually work through a use case on that. So what we kind of really mean is what does it mean for us to actually be able to go through and set up a user, and how easy and fast is it actually going to be? So we're going to actually kind of give you a use case of where this has actually been with a US-based bank and who's actually using us for this very function today to save their engineers time and also make it, like I said, less error prone and saving time as well. We can go ahead and look at the next use case with the, role-based access control. I thought we were going to go through them a different way. That's fine. So role-based access control is kind of what I mentioned. It's a way that we'll be able to kind of delegate those roles to a help desk, to a NOC, to making sure that only the access that someone needs to have is actually given to them. It will mean that you are meeting more of your regulations, making sure that you are not necessarily meeting your security regulations. You are making certain you know who has actually been able to make the changes that have been making changes without necessarily having to give full admin control back to your help desk, to your NOC as well. And the last one is zero touch. And this is really we're going to kind of go a little bit more in depth on how we actually kind of do the integration with ServiceNow instead, and how it really can actually be very, very simple, and how it's actually we're going to show you kind of the way that we'll do this so that if everyone is familiar with using, your teams are familiar with using with ServiceNow, we can also then customize as well beyond this to even make it even easier to really be able to specifically meet your needs. So now we'll actually jump into the first use case with the US bank.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first case study is, and Mark, you can actually go ahead and jump to the next one.
Yep.
There you go. Yep. They needed a centralized management for their Cisco system. They were not only on Call Manager, they were on Webex MT, they have Webex Contact Center, and they need to be able to actually very simply kind of take all these various different platforms, kind of look at them all in a single pane of glass, and actually be able to look at them, be able to make changes very, very quickly. So we'll go ahead and kind of show you just real quickly what this looks like to how we can actually run through this, and actually how this actually would work, what you'd see on a day-to-day basis, what your engineers or help desk might actually see as they want to actually want to do this. So straight from the Kurmi front page, it's basically going to show you all of your users, where everything's at, where users are actually at. We're going to actually just click on first, and we're going to be looking at our Active Directory first, or these are our users first that actually going to have where they're actually at. You're going to see you do have your Webex users, your and your Call Manager users and Contact Center users all blended together, kind of all in one location. So now if I just want to actually go in and modify this pre-existing user and see if they're going to go and be the same thing, if I want to move them actually from either being an Entra ID user only because they're connected to Microsoft first, I just go ahead and change their package. That's it. The package is going to be assigned with all of the features and functions they actually need to have. So in this case, we're going to be actually adding them in with a Cisco phone, with a line. Lines are actually going to be predefined. No more spreadsheets. We've actually imported it in, so there's no more, oh, do I have to call the number to find out if it's actually in use? No, we actually take care of it for you. So we take care of this one. Actually, also we're going to be adding in Teams into the exact same into the same profile, all in one step. So you're not necessarily having to leave and go out to Teams Admin Center after you've already done all of your work in Call Manager as well. And that's it. And we've saved it. So now this user has actually been updated. It has all of their actual usage information actually in there. Everything is ready to go for both Teams and Cisco. It's been called out to everyone. Much easier to actually be able to get some things done. So the next one we're actually going to jump into is user provisioning instead. So this is how is going to be well, that's the video for it. It's going to be the role-based access control, if I'm not mistaken. You can jump to the next one.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, so it is. It's role-based access control, and this is why we would actually want to be going through and setting up those users to be very secure and making sure how we're actually going to update users. That we want to make sure that that only certain users will be able to only see specific specific branches, specific locations, specific departments, or specific features. But you may not necessarily want them to have other features and functions actually turned on. You may want to actually turn some other things off for them instead. So again, large Canadian bank actually has been a long-time customer of ours, 1,000 locations. It gets a little unruly, so they needed something to actually be able to help out their help desk and actually be able to decentralize this for themselves as well, but still having a common use case across the board.
Hey Jeff, I wanted to ask you. I mean, does it,
Sure.
one of the things we talk about internally, I want to make sure we share externally, is the part that role-based access control. So the idea of delegation, how does that connect with security? How are we seeing organizations lower risk by using role-based access control?
If I don't have to give out full admin rights to a help desk just so they can go and create a user, it makes everybody's life a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about how many logins, where were the logins actually created. We keep all of it as an audit information within Kurmi as well. So you will know who was actually, and you can send that back as regulatory reports as well. Say we know exactly who was actually doing what, where, and when. But then again, also, it just makes it easier if you have a Western-based contact center that it may not necessarily need to see the Eastern sites. Less risk, less even just complications for someone to actually have to go through and actually look at. The engineers can still have the super view of actually be able to look at everything instead, but this does actually make sure that you have that you have segmented out that information as well as kept a good track of where all the information is as well. So I'll go ahead and show you what this actually looks like instead, how we'd actually have the how role-based access control actually gets set up. So again, from the Kurmi front page, we are going to go ahead and look at and add some users to this and give them basically only limited access rights instead. So from the front page, we are going to instead substitute down to a different level. What you would have been looking at was the company level. Now we're going to look at just a department admin. And you can kind of see now also there's fewer departments for them to actually be able to see that, and there's also just fewer users in general using fewer departments and fewer packages. And packages are the services that are actually assigned to everyone. So instead of having a list of 50 users to actually worry about, we're actually going to have only a couple of users to have to worry about, but we still have the same view of exactly what those users are going to be, and they can still go through and actually modify the users that they actually need to have as well.
Perfect. Hey, Jeff, I'll make the point in case it wasn't clear. I mean, the way we can delegate the granularity of it, it's infinite. So think about financial services organizations. They've got retail banking, commercial investment, wealth management, compliance, whatever. You can segment it that way by geography. And then also the exact sort of functionality and capabilities that the help desk or IT teams are allowed to touch and make changes to. Those sort of delegation and roles are infinite in how that can be structured. So virtually no limitation
Yep. And the last thing we're going to talk about real quickly is how a large investment firm needed to basically make sure that we were able to automate their onboarding processes. They were already invested in having ServiceNow across their organization. They wanted to be able to leverage that investment in other ways as well. So they brought on Kurmi to basically be the intermediary that can also directly work with ServiceNow, be able to be customized so we can also make sure that it is zero touch, that we can bring in all those users that Kurmi will automatically call out to Call Manager, Webex, Teams, Zoom, etc. Calls out, makes all the changes, closes the ticket within ServiceNow, could be Workday as well, and then just goes ahead and makes it much easier for everyone. So no longer having to wait around for those 15 minutes, we actually do make this a very fast, easy process for everyone involved. So we'll go ahead and we'll show you how this one works really quickly. So this is going to start with, moment. Again, still from the Kurmi front page. We still want to show you from the Kurmi front page that we're going to find a user. And we want to prove to you that this user already exists because we're already connected either Entra ID, or we're already connected to Active Directory. We already know this user exists, but they don't have any services. They're just a user and they don't have any phone services yet. So instead, we can actually switch back out, go over to ServiceNow instead. And this is the low touch version of this, but it can be customized to be zero touch. And we're going to actually go ahead and just update them to actually give them phone services instead. So I'm going to search for my one user I just found in Kurmi, Dell, and I'm going to assign them a department. They're currently just a user. I'm going to make sure that they are now going to have voice services assigned to them. Now the phone number will automatically be assigned. This takes about 60 seconds to actually have this entirely run through the entire process. It calls out to everything. It closes the ticket. Now I basically jump back over to Kurmi. I refresh my screen, look at Adele all over again, and now we can see that Adele is now a Teams phone user instead. That she had those users. So very simple. You didn't necessarily have to do anything. It's non-technical, so you can absolutely push that off to help desk as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so we'll just kind of we're kind of in the wrap-up stage. So kind of the key value propositions we see, obviously saving time. I think that is clear. Jeff just walked through a workflow that could take easily 20 to 30 minutes. We hear from our customers is sub 1 minute or fully automated. Decreasing costs associated with it, those are obvious. Reduction of errors, both in the provisioning, deprovisioning, daily changes that might be made, but also number management. So Jeff talked about and showed, I think the kind of the red, green, the numbers available.
Sure.
A lot of that today is still managed through spreadsheets. So removing that process and going to a more automated, faster, more efficient, less redundant process is great. And then empowering IT to really focus on things that matter. So these are daily tasks that can be fully automated. It frees up IT to go do other things that could be more valuable in the organization. And that brings us to Q&A. I think we do have some questions. I appreciate that. It looks like they are more of the technical nature. So Jeff, you're going to be on deck for a lot of these, but we'll get to as many as we can. And I'll also urge you to learn more about Kurmi. We're happy to provide a more personalized demo that's more related to your environment or your workflows. Please feel free to scan that and we can schedule it at your convenience. But with that, let me see if we can move to the questions. Okay. Jeff, I don't know if you're seeing questions. I saw them and now I've lost them.
Yeah, I've got them pulled up.
Great.
Sure. Yeah, so it looks like one of the questions is how many admin profiles can you have? You know what Mark mentioned early on, we're built for the large enterprises. So it's really what fits your needs. But it doesn't necessarily have to be it could be department administrators also, which we mentioned from role-based access control, or you could also have multiple administrators as well at kind of the engineering level who might actually need to be able to look at things at a different level. So it's up to you how you want to set things up. The answer is it's really up to you. There is no technically an upper limit on that as well. What else? Do we have an online version of Kurmi? Can I connect to on-prem UC systems? Absolutely. Yeah. So as we mentioned, Kurmi does offer a self-hosted version, and we also offer a cloud-hosted version as well, securely hosted in Azure in the United States. So if you would like, if you do connect to the cloud-hosted version, we do make sure that you have a single connection from your on-prem systems, your self-hosted systems, coming back up into Kurmi, so that if you to make sure that we aren't going out and touching everything individually. We're giving you a single data point and data connection, so that makes it easier on your networking team, makes it easier on everyone else to make sure and the security teams to making sure it works a lot better. And last one is actually how is Kurmi deployed on-prem or on cloud? Yeah, it's both. It's whatever works best for you. As Mark mentioned earlier as well, both platforms are virtually identical. That there's feature parity between each. The main differences might be if they're both equally secure. However, if you prefer a self-hosted version, then that will give you the complete and total data sovereignty of having that in total and complete control on your own. If you're hosting in Kurmi Cloud, you don't have to worry about, are you managing the servers, are you managing the virtual servers, are you managing the network, et cetera. So it's depending on how you actually want to be able to deploy it as well. That is all I'm seeing for questions. So
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff, and appreciate the interactive portion of this. Feel free, if you have additional questions you think of afterward, you can submit them. If you want to learn more or see a personalized demo, let us know. Obviously, we're happy to schedule that, and we greatly appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
yeah, thanks everyone.